name is Südbrücker, and that video is about nodered for absolute beginners with minimal JavaScript programming knowledge. I support frequently hackathons, and I notice people sometimes do not have so deep knowledge about programming. They do know JavaScript a bit, but they have great ideas. And for that, people, nodered is great for the prototyping, just to get something there, just to present it. And what I will show, the totally basics with the nodered instance on IBM Cloud, how to save data in a database, search for entries inside the database, and display the data in the UI. So that's totally basics that you can present something. And for sure, there are a huge amount of different functionalities out there to integrate other services, and also by the way, I also created videos for such kind of things, and but that's about the basics. So if you do not have a running instance of the nodered starter, I would say check out below the description how to do that, or maybe I will have a link here somewhere up. You can directly click and see how to set up. There will be no additional cost for you at the moment, and when I recorded that video, there's a free account you can create, and everything what you see you can create for free. So let's start. As I said, I expect that you have a running app, so that when you finish the setup I described in the video, you will have such app with these different integrations. And now we will going to start with the different steps. And by the way, what I also will do, I will insert into the description different sections where you directly can enter what you are interested in. So the video links with a specific time, so that you can directly skip some topics which are here and not watch the entire video. Okay, first step is create data entries. Yeah, how to create data entry inside nodered. A little bit about the basics. When you inside nodered, just a recap. Here we have an inject node, we have the debug node. We can watch here inside the debug window here what happens. We wire these two nodes, and that is the result. So we will use here an inject node. And that inject node, yeah, we will use to insert data. And I say insert new user, for example. And the new user will be in a format in JSON. Yeah, so let's take a look which data format we use here. That's the data we will insert. I say here deploy. Let us take a look how it works in the debug window. So here, and you can see. Okay, so now we will use cloud and out. So that means we will send out to the cloud and database service the data. So now it's time to take a look into our existing installation. We have a cloud service, and inside that cloud service, which is related to our nodered instance, we already have a database. The database is called nodered. Let's see here. And the flow information stored, the different other information stored. So, okay. We want not to destroy that database. We will create our own database, and it is very easy to do that. We do not have to configure any additional authentication information, because that database is already binded to our Node-RED application. So we can just insert here the database name and say here up. So root beginner, insert the database, and we want to ensure that only that data is inserted without any other ugly information from the message object. So, and then we say deploy, and yeah, and let's see what was created. Now, yeah. Okay, it works. Everything works fine. So we finish with the first step. The next step is how to get data out from that database. So we will also use inject node once more. And that inject node will trigger a cloud and in. That means we want to get into our flow data from the cloud database. Here we have to configure once more the database where we want to get the data from. Absolute inner database. We want to grab all the data which is inside, and say here deploy. We do not see anything. The reason is I haven't wired it to the debug node, and now we see it. Okay, cool, works. We have one entry, so we get one entry as a return value. The next is we want to search inside our database. And this is a little bit more tricky, because if you want to search inside databases, maybe you have to know SQL for SQL databases, and for non-SQL database here for the cloud database, here we have to create a search index. And I already have created a search index for you. So you only have to insert a new document and save the document, and then you have the search index here. And the search index has following parameter for querying. That means for the last name, for example, I call it here last name, the last name, and say s with wildcard, and you can see here only one entry but with a s, and if you would use t for my last name, okay, there's no entry. Okay, works. With that, now we will create an additional in, and we will specify a query for that. So we say search for last name. Here we need a JSON, and let's see the JSON for the last name. Can copy. So done. Okay, deploy. Let us see what happens here. So I can see that. And we limit the result value to 200. Configure once more the database. So beginner, and now we use search index, and now we have to specify the search index we use here, and the search index, the design document name. That case is that, and the index name itself here is search index. So to deploy. So now we can wire that. Also put it to our debug node and say here run, and you get, you can see here, we search for these, and now that's the return value. Also works. Cool. Very easy. Now the time has come for the UI. We have these possibilities to save data and get the data which is stored inside the database, and now we want an UI. Here, reminder, that's what the UI does when we are finished. We have here a tab, which is called here at the moment home of our page. So if we have more tabs, there would be more possibilities here to select. There are groups. The group is called user, and the group has two entries here, two forms. One form is for searching, and the other is for insert a user. And there's another group called table, and that group has the table to show the search results. Okay, now we're going to set up that. You can see here. When we go to set up that, we first have to configure our Node-RED instance. Our Node-RED instance currently does not have the dashboard functionality. So we just search for that, and we're going to install it. That's the dashboard and yeah, the table. And we can also copy, paste. You can see now it's installed. So search for that here. Say install. And then we have also the table. Okay, move on. The first is the input form. We have an input form, and then we have a function. With the function, we format a little bit the import data so that it applies to what we need inside our database. And let us start with that. You need a form and a function. You can wire it already and check it in our debug node. So we will create a new group. You can see here. The new group is called user. We will also create a new tab. That's the default name, you know, the home. And now, with that, we know where it is placed, and we can say here, insert new user, for example. The label is the first name. Yes, the name itself is first name. Then we have the last name. And here it's country and country. All required fields. That's a label, and that's the data which is available in the payload. You will see here later. You can say done, deploy. And now is the question how we can access that UI. We just can insert a new tab, and with that, with UI, you can directly access this. And you can see here, that's our tab, user. I just say here as, and now you can see that is what is inserted. At the moment, it does not have the right format. I'll do it once again. I'll just send it. You can see user is missing at the beginning, and that is what we will insert with our shortcut code snippet. Copy and paste here inside the function and say here apply. And when we now submit it, we have the right format. So now we're ready really to insert that as a new entry. And maybe we want also to trigger here that as a starting point to get the results of the entire database. So let us deploy it, say here, when we say here submit, then we create a new data. First name, for example, is Uwe Schulz in Germany. Say submit. So let's take here, and now we can see automatically, it was also here, automatically you can see that there are two data entries. Okay, it also works. The next is now we want to add a table. Here we also will add a function to do some format, and we will add the table itself. Okay, let's do it with the table. Here we have the table, and we will add a function. So yeah, say here deploy. And we have to configure it now. Here, the table, we do not want to have the table in the same group. We don't want to do that. We need a new group. You'll remember the group was called table. And now I give a table a name, let's just call it table, and now I insert the entries. The property we want to display here is first name, and then I say add first name, and last name, and then we have country. Okay, that's the data we have here. So, okay. You can also add the code snippet. To format it in the format the table expects. You know, there we only have first name here, and so on, and that. You can say, for example, search for last name. You can trigger it, and then let us take a look here. We have these two entries. Okay, the next is that we want to add a search capability to our UI. Clear the debug. We can add additional form. Can say here the label is search for last name. That's the label, is a last name and last name. I have to ensure that because it's the last name, and I know the search, the example search, so that yeah, I did it here, and to ensure later on that is the right name. Yeah. You can copy it. So that's what I want to ensure that that was the right name inside the table of the output value, which comes as an input value for the query. Okay, so you can say here deploy. Then we need once more function. Here is the function. I see here I have to remove a misspelling. Not a misspelling. There's a character with the last name, so that to ensure that. So you can see here limit data. So what we are going to search for. We just wire it. So that means here we insert the name we search for. Here we put it in the right format. And this is where we want to search. And I also put it here in the debug window. So when I now insert the search name, here last name, for example, with an S and a star, and I say submit, okay, it doesn't change because we have these two entries. And when we take a look in the debug, so once more, say submit, search for the last name, and now we have to take a look here. When we search here for the output, we'll also take a look at that. Okay, so that we can see what happens. Oh, there was here. You can see here. That was the reason. A copy. Okay, there was a error in a copy and paste. So once more, submit. Yeah, now. And now we see everything. Here it works. And was an update. Okay, we can maybe insert also an additional name. Uwe. Uwe Martin, for example. So now we have Uwe Martin, and we search for Martin. And now we see here Uwe Martin. Okay, yeah, great. Such easy it is. And there are a lot of more capabilities you can add by yourself. So that's a really good starting point, I would say, just to start as an absolute beginner. Yeah, it's a little bit from zero to a very small hero. Yeah. If you want to dig more into the different functionalities inside Node-RED, I also created a flow called Twitter follower flow, or you can find also in the description, or maybe somewhere up here. It covers how to handle REST APIs, authentication. As an example, I use the integration to Twitter so that you can extract your Twitter follower and take a look at that and use paging and other topics. It is more in depth. It's not for totally beginner, but it's still for beginner, but it's not for total beginner. And I would say, yeah, hopefully it was useful for you. And thanks for watching. And check out the material which is below in the description. I will also add that to a blog post, and I will add the GitHub with the documentation and the flows also into the description. And I hope you have fun in your next hackathon. And I guess now you are more experienced. Okay, bye.